Pixy Liao's photography queers traditional heterosexual gender roles, contorts the male gaze, shines a playful light on feminine experience, and plays with sexuality and erotic expression. Her compositions challenge the viewer to rethink their preconceived notions as she welcomes you into her intimate and whimsical scenes. Pixy was born in Shanghai, China under the one-child policy. She grew up as the only daughter to a traditional Chinese household. She said of her childhood, "Growing up in China, I didn't see any examples of female role models that I wanted to be. It was like being the second best or supporting role, and I didn't understand why it had to be that way." In China, Liao began as an undergraduate major in educational technology, a branch of communication. Later, after teaching herself design, she landed a job in graphic design. She said in an interview, "In my design job, I found that my goal was to serve clients, which meant I had no control over my work. I wanted a mode of creation where I could have control over my final work." After deciding to pursue photography, Liao quit her job as a graphic designer in Shanghai and left to pursue her MFA as an international student in Memphis, Tennessee at the University of Memphis in 2005. It is at the University of Memphis that Pixy meets Moro, her muse, partner, and subject of ongoing series Experimental Relationship. Moro was at the University of Memphis studying music on exchange from University of Alabama. Pixy described meeting Moro. "On the first day of school, there was an international student orientation. I spotted him in a group, and he was introducing himself to everybody, saying, 'I'm here to study jazz.' I thought, here's this beautiful young musician who was really my type, and I remembered him from that first day of school, and always hoped I would see him again." A year later, Liao found Moro at an event on campus. "I was like, 'I'm a photographer. Can I talk to you? Can I take a photo of you?' That's how we met. I was just pretending I had a lot of photo assignments. I would always ask him for help, saying, 'I need to do another photo. Can you model for me again?' Then, in 2007, 1 year later, the inspiration for Experimental Relationship came when the couple were still living in Memphis. Liao was working on a project involving the staging of false crime scenes. Liao had asked Moro to play dead bodies for the shoot, which meant he would sometimes have to get naked and climb into a suitcase. At first I thought this was completely normal, for a boyfriend to be helping his girlfriend with photos. But then I realized, this is not a normal boyfriend." This question of normality was the catalyst for Experimental Relationship. Liao explained, "It was not until my classmates and teachers wondered how it was possible for a boyfriend to be so willing to pose for my photos, sometimes even naked or in unflattering situations, that I realized that our relationship seemed uncommon to other people. So I then started to focus on our relationship. This relationship was unconventional." Liao says, "As a woman brought up in China, I used to think I could only love someone who is older and more mature than me, who can be my protector and mentor. Then I met my current boyfriend, Moro. Since he is 5 years younger than me, I felt that the whole concept of relationships changed, all the way around. I became a person who has more authority and power. One of my male friends even questioned how I could choose a boyfriend the way a man would choose a girlfriend. And I thought, damn right, that's exactly what I'm doing. And why not? In China, it's common for the man to be older and the woman younger in a heterosexual relationship. In a family, the husband is usually the head of the household, and the wife takes care of the domestic affairs. I always thought that I needed to find a boyfriend or husband who was older and more mature than me, and could also be my life mentor. Now I think it is too narrow to define a heterosexual relationship in these terms. It limits the opportunities for different types of people to bond together outside of this stereotype. Plus, if we all do that, it will reinforce the structure of patriarchy in society." Pixy's work examines her socially unconventional relationship with Moro. Within most of her work, Pixy places herself in a position of power over Moro. She disrupts expected heteronormative power structures, displaying dominance in her feminine sexuality. She creates these scenes to explore the alternative possibilities of heterosexual relationships. Pixy playfully subverts the male gaze. The male gaze refers to a woman's to-be-looked-at-ness within media. The male gaze positions women as sexual objects to provide pleasure for the audience. She does not have narrative value, and if she does have narrative value, the narrative value is dependent on her sexual object status in reference to male characters. It does not matter who she is, but what she represents. Within Pixy's photos, she is not the object of desire. Moro is. Moro is objectified, treated in the way that women are typically shown through the male gaze. Even still, it is clear that the gaze with which Moro is meant to be viewed is Pixy's. Moro is her sexual object, not ours. Pixy's photos are meant to depict sexuality, not illicit desire. Within this power structure, there is still some power left to Moro. In most of Pixy's photos, Moro is the one holding the cable release. Pixy explains, People are usually curious when they notice Moro is the one who holds the cable release in a lot of photos. The cable release serves as a clue in my images to help the audience to read into the intention of the photos and the relationship between us. Pixy holds power, but Moro holds control. Pixy places Moro into scenes which fight hegemonic masculinity. Hegemonic masculinity is defined as the most socially prized way to perform masculinity, that is upheld by a patriarchal society that rests not only in power over women, but also power over other forms of masculinity. In Pixy's photo, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Moro is breaking the boundaries of hegemonic masculinity. He is placed in a seemingly seductive and feminine pose, revealing his back. If one was not told he is a man, they might assume he is a masculine woman. When Pixy was asked for her opinion on the male heteronormative image that our societies have been experiencing, she replied, "That is a toxic idea. People exist in all different forms. To think of people who are not heterosexual as abnormal is just an inhumane thought. Who is there to say who is normal and who is not, especially in a world today where everyone can voice for themselves through social media? I really don't think that idea can be popular for much longer." Pixy's work becomes a carnivalesque expression of gender and sexuality. The carnival can be divided into two elements, folk humor and laughter. Folk humor is opposed to serious tone and official authority of both church and state. Laughter is a special kind of universal laughter, a cosmic gaiety that is directed at everyone, including the carnival's participants. Pixy's photography opposes society, making fun of not just the world she is living in, but herself and Moro. Folk humor can be further divided into ritual spectacles, comic verbal compositions, and genres of billingsgate. Although she could be placed into all three categories, Pixy's work most cleanly fits into billingsgate. Pixy's work is profane. She often shows nudity, placing herself and Moro in seemingly sexual positions. One photograph shows her pointing to her eyes with double middle fingers. Another depicts her with a large stuffed phallus, which Moro is stroking. She also makes sculptures, usually featuring body parts, such as the breasts or penis. Pixy says, "Humor is one of the key elements in my photos. Firstly, this is because I have to enjoy the process in order to work, but also, humor is a powerful tool. Most people would think that humor is not serious, but I think that when people are humored by something, when it really gets to you, the person actually reveals themselves as well. I admit there's a part of it that is my rebellion to the society I'm living in." Pixy adopts and transgresses media. She says, "Yes, the ideas for a lot of my photos come from art history or mass media, mostly imagery I have previously seen that has impacted me. For example, my early photo, Relationships Work Best When Each Partner Knows Their Proper Place, from 2008, was inspired by a painting I always find amusing, Gabrielle de Estres et une de ses wives, circa 1594. And Every Man Needs a Woman to Keep Him on Track, from 2008, was inspired by the magazine cover featuring a photo of Janet Jackson's half-naked figure. Another is her photo called Massage Time, tribute to my favorite album cover, from 2015, which is literally a tribute to her favorite album cover. Transgression refers to an action or artistic practice that breaks with the prevailing cultural codes and conventions of society. Pixy breaks the power structures, male gaze, hegemonic masculinity, and sexual boundaries of our society. This transgression is what makes Pixy, Pixy.